The Building Blocks of Language by the Three Musketeers. Hi, my name is Leah Hussein and I'm going to be talking to you about morphology. Morphology is the analysis of the structure of words. When we think about morphemes, we're basically breaking down words into the smallest meaningful parts. For example, take the word boy. That is a morpheme that carries meaning and cannot be broken down any further. Now think about the word boys. It can now be broken up into two parts, boy and z. The S makes the word boy plural. Morphemes are divided into two main parts, free morphemes and bound morphemes. A free morpheme is the smallest unit of a word that can stand alone but has meaning. A bound morpheme is the smallest unit of a word that carries meaning but cannot stand alone. That's why there's a picture of a dog with a leash on it. A bound morpheme has to be connected to a free morpheme. So now that we have free morphemes and bound morphemes, morphemes can also be broken down into lexical, functional, derivational, and inflectional. A free morpheme can be categorized as either lexical or functional. Lexical morphemes have content while carrying meaning. It creates an image in your head. Functional morphemes don't carry content. They're more articles and conjunctions. For example, the girl. The would be a functional morpheme, and girl would be a lexical morpheme. Keep in mind that they are both free morphemes and can stand alone. Bound morphemes are classified as derivational or inflectional. Derivational morphemes change the grammatical classification to make new words. Inflectional morphemes specify aspects of the grammatical purpose of the word. Take disabled. Dis is derivational, and the ed in disabled is inflectional. It is important to know that inflectional morphemes change the grammatical purpose by making a word either plural possessive, past tense, comparative, or others. Inflectional morphemes must be a suffix, no exceptions. So here are some examples. Imported. Import is a free and lexical morpheme, and the ed is bound and inflectional. Successful. Success is free and lexical, and full is bound and derivational. Untied. Un is bound and derivational, and the ed in untied is bound and inflectional, but there's also tie in the middle, which is free and lexical. So why are morphemes so important? Morphemes basically create new words in language development. As you can see, all of these words can be either broken down or made into bigger words. That's why morphemes can create larger vocabulary for children developing language.
Hello, this is Gretchen Ramirez, and I'll be talking about phonology. If you were to define phonology, you would say that it's the aspect of language concerned with the rules governing the structure, distribution, and sequencing of speech sounds. In an easier way, you can think of it as studying how different sounds are put together and are able to be used in a language. When using phonology, we have to think about its form or what it looks like. You have to think about the underlying background or how a sound is specifically designed. It's like the blueprints of each type of sound in any given word. It serves as the constant basis of all variations in different physical articulations of that sound. By interpreting the meaning of sounds, we're able to describe phonemes. Phonemes are a unit of sound that distinguishes one word from another in a given language. Phonemes are also the smallest linguistic unit of sound. There are 26 letters in the English alphabet, but there are 43 known phonemes. Now, we have 43 phonemes because some letters from the English alphabet are combined to be able to create a different sound. Phonemes are seen as both letters and symbols. When having a phoneme, you can also create an allophone for it, which expresses one kind of sound from that phoneme. Here we have a picture of some letters and symbols that represent different phonemes. You have two words that sound the same but have different meanings. You have what's known as minimal pairs. Minimal pairs are two or more words that are identical in form except for a contrast in one phoneme in the same position in each word. Here we have an example like bad and dad, bay and day, b and d. By changing the beginning phoneme, you are now able to create more words with the same sounds.
Hi, my name is Kyra Montanez, and I'm going to be talking about syntax. So what is syntax? Syntax is the structure and ordering of components within a sentence. And in this slideshow, we're going to be talking about parts of speech, phrases, clauses, and sentence types. Parts of speech. So here are some of the basic parts of speech. We have nouns, a person, place, thing, or abstract idea. We can also have a subset of nouns called proper nouns, and these are names or specific places. So like my name is Kyra and it would be capitalized, or Niagara Falls would also be capitalized because it is the name of a place. We have pronouns. They're used in place of a noun phrase. Examples would be he, she, or it. We have verbs, an action or state of being, and we're going to go over verbs a little bit more on the next slide. There are adverbs, they describe a verb. Adjectives, they describe a noun or pronoun. Prepositions, they're used with nouns to give information about time, place, or other connections. And some examples of prepositions would be in, beside, or with. Conjunction is a word used to make connections. Examples of conjunctions include and, but, or. An article is used with nouns to form noun phrases, and an example of an article would be words like a, and, or the. Okay, now we're going to take a close-up look on verbs. We have two broad ways of classifying them. We have transitive and intransitive. Transitive verbs are verbs that take on a noun or a noun phrase. They have a direct object. An example would be, I stare at the wall. Stare is the verb and wall is its object. Then we have intransitive verbs. They are verbs that do not take on an object. They are action verbs. I stare angrily. Stare is the verb and it has no object. Then we have members of the be family. These are words like am, is, are, was, were. If it's used as the main verb in a sentence, it's called a copula. And an example of this would be, we are exhausted. Are is the verb, and it's the only verb in that sentence. Then we have auxiliaries. They are used as helping verbs that precede the main verb. An example would be, the child is running. Is the helping verb, and running is the main verb, and it's used for tense. Phrases. Prepositional phrase starts with a preposition and usually ends with a noun or pronoun. An example sentence would be, the boy beside the blue car is my brother. Beside the blue car is the prepositional phrase. In this sentence, it's acting as an adjective because it's modifying the boy. Where is he? He's beside the blue car. A noun phrase includes a noun and other related words, such as adjectives, articles, demonstratives, or even prepositional phrases. An example would be, the pretty girl. The is an article, pretty is an adjective, and girl is a noun, and altogether this acts as the noun in the sentence. The verb phrase includes a verb and its dependents. This can have anything including prepositional phrases and noun phrases as long as it has the verb in it. Clauses. We have independent and dependent clauses. Independent clauses contain a subject and a predicate. An example would be, I went to the store. This sentence can stand on its own. Then we have dependent clauses. It contains a subject and a predicate as well, but it begins with a subordinate conjunction. If I use the same sentence, but I add the word because in the beginning, it makes it dependent. Because I went to the store. This sentence cannot stand on its own. Sentence types. First, we have simple sentences. An example would be, I have a pencil. This makes sense on its own and contains a complete thought. Then we have compound. An example would be, I have a pencil and I have a pen. These are two independent clauses connected by the word and. Then we have complex. An example would be, I have a pencil because I am at school. I have a pencil is an independent, and because I am at school is a dependent. Then we have compound complex. I have a pencil and I have a pen because I am at school. That sentence contains two independent clauses and one dependent clause. Then we have declarative. I can say, I have a pencil. This makes a statement and ends with a period. Then we have interrogative. Can I have that pencil? I asked something, and it ended with a question mark. I can say, I have a new pencil. And there I showed strong feeling, and that ended with an exclamation point. Then I have imperative. Give me that pencil. There I told someone what to do, and that ends with a period. How does syntax relate? In phonology, the change in a phoneme can change a word, making it improper. If I have the base sentence, hand me that plate, and I change it to hand me fat plate, I change the th sound to a th sound, and that changed the word, making the sentence improper. In morphology, a change in a morpheme can change the tense or plural agreement and make the sentence improper. If I say hands me that plate, I added an inflectional morpheme, and that changed the plurality, making the sentence improper. In semantics, a change in a word can change the deeper surface meaning of the sentence. If I say hand me that dish, I changed plate to dish, and that changed the surface meaning of the sentence, but it didn't change the deep meaning. In pragmatics, I can say hand me and nod at something, and it's still understood that I want something handed to me. So improper syntax is still relatively understood. And that's how all the components of language relate to syntax.
Now let's move on to pragmatics. My name is Susanna Rodriguez. Pragmatics is the study of what speakers mean or the speaker meaning. In other words, pragmatics has much more to do with context clues, word meaning, and prior knowledge than anything else. If you were to see a sign like the one below, you would probably assume that the person who put it up isn't selling his or her garage, but rather items that were placed inside of it that they no longer use. The same applies to storefront signs. Sometimes we see signs such as baby sale and women's sale when we go to the mall. It takes prior knowledge and context clues to know that babies aren't being sold and women aren't being sold, but rather clothes, without it being actually mentioned. In the previous slide, we made an emphasis on how important context really is. There are different types of context. There's physical context and there's linguistic context. They both help us get a better grasp on what is being said and what it might actually mean. There are common words in our language that can't be interpreted at all if we don't know the context. An example of this are the words here, there, and that. If we have no further information, we can't fully grasp where here is, where there, or that are. In order to let the listener know what we're talking about, we need to use nouns and proper nouns, and this is called a reference. Another three things that are crucial to pragmatics are inference, anaphora, and presupposition. An inference is additional information used by a listener to create a connection between what is said and what must be meant. As speakers and listeners, we usually make a distinction between how we introduce new reference and how we refer back to them, and that's anaphora. Last but not least, we have presupposition, which is what a speaker assumes is true or known by a listener. An example of this would be for a speaker to tell you that you should call back your sister. There's an obvious presupposition that you have a sister in the first place.
I'm James Lane. This is my presentation on semantics. According to Giorgio, in reference to our textbook, semantics is the study of meanings of words and sentences. This is more of the general meaning or conceptual meaning, so to say. When breaking down semantics, there are semantic rules. The rules are agent, which is the person or thing that performs the action. This is usually a person, and the theme, which is the person or thing being affected by the action. In semantics, there are lexical relations. These are the meanings of words in terms of the relations they share with other words and phrases, such as if someone says dark is the opposite of light, dark is still dark, but in relation to other words and phrases. Dark has a lexical relation with being the opposite of light. There are types of lexical relations such as synonymy, which is when two or more words share closely related meanings, or an antonym, which is two or more words having opposite meanings, such as the example on the previous slide. Lastly, there is collocation, which is the organization of intelligence in the occurrence of language, such as when someone would say knock knock. Collocation occurs when someone responds who's there.